Hey, good morning, Drew. Good
Hey,
to see
morning to
you.
you, man.
How are you
How you
doing?
doing?
Oh, I'm
All
hanging
is
in
well.
there.
Yeah,
Always great to see you. Hope you had a great week. I know,
yeah,
we've had some phone calls, but we haven't had a successful video visit in a little bit. And I know you wanted to talk about resilience. I think
yeah,
that's a great topic for us to chew on and debate about from our two different worldviews. I'm calling you from Kansas. It's been hot lately, end of July, early August, and
yeah,
been enjoying the sun. And but it's nice to take a break here and have a great talk with you.
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to the conversation on resilience. Um, it's not as hot over here in Grays Harbor right now. Emphasis on Grays, but it has been great weather this week. Worked hard this week. Had a lot of challenges, both inward and with people outside of me. And I think resilience is a great topic to discuss about, especially after having done so much time in prison. How you deal with challenges is an important aspect of how you can succeed in life, because life isn't going to be without challenges. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what type of resilience you've been having to have in your life, and when did you first recognize the footprint of resilience during your career in the military?
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. I'll be honest with you. I think it was important before the military. Um,
Yeah,
I Back when I was a kid, and we lived in the Philippines. I was a military brat.
oh
My dad was stationed over there, and
yeah,
we had to move, from off base to on base, and I didn't want to change schools, and so my parents said, okay, well, the only way I could do that is if I started riding my bike to school. And so I chose way back in like sixth grade to ride like 4 or 5 miles in the hot summer, hot weather of
yeah,
Philippines
yeah,
because I wanted to go to this other school, and so that's where it started. And so I pushed through that adversity, to get what I wanted, right? So I think it started like
yeah,
way back then, and that's when it was
yeah,
sort of like I was going off the beaten path of just accepting whatever is coming to me, and so
yeah,
but then later, I had an affinity towards wrestling, and that is all about building resilience, physical and mental, and so I think that I think grit and resilience are synonymous, and the famous book by Angela Duckworth talks about passion and perseverance, right? You need to have a higher
yeah,
purpose that's driving you, and then you have to have the perseverance, and I think of perseverance as the ability to transcend physical and or mental, it can be both at the same time, adversity, but the ability to transcend physical or mental adversity, towards some sort of better future. And
yeah,
so I think the seeds were planted, and that helped me push hard in school, push hard in sports. That enabled me to then be able to go to West Point. West Point is definitely a crucible of
yeah,
resilience where they're building you stronger, and then that was the springboard for a career. That eventually included going to Ranger School and Special Forces training and whatnot, and ended up being a successful 26-year career, retiring as an Army Special Forces colonel. And so I think resilience is one of those key attributes that I had to, groom and forge along the way. But, I didn't necessarily deliberately set out to do that. That was just
yeah,
what was required for me to be a better man, and then to serve, a higher purpose, which I enjoyed serving for the military.
yeah.
So anyway, so that's my story of, you wanted to know, hey, when did you see it in the military? But that's too narrow, I think. I had the bigger picture.
No, that's good. I really like how you talked about how you responded. The the resilience that we find in our life currently, I think, can be traced all the way back to maybe when we were younger. And I wasn't really thinking about this until you started talking, but I know you remember in '86, I think it was, when my father passed away.
Yeah.
That even as a young boy, having to go through that hardship, even though I was surrounded by family, having to find some sort of resilience on the inside of me. Now, I mean, what was I, 7 years old or something like that? 13 years later, I'm going to face this great challenge in my life, commit a horrible crime, and look at spending the rest of my life in prison. And I was going to need to find a way to become resilient to not only face what I had done, but use it somehow to catapult me to becoming a better human being. And who would have thought that maybe some of the aspects of resilience that I gravitated towards when I was 7 years old were going to have to be reemployed in my life when I was 20. And now here I am, 42, after doing 21 plus years in prison, having learned a lot about life and a lot about the value of time in life. How we respond this week, I had to focus on things to be grateful for. I'm hardwired, and I think a lot of us are hardwired. 85% of our brain picks up on what we don't like. It's easy for us to be negative about something. If you look at the media, if you look at news or anything, it's a majority of what we are dissatisfied with. But it is so hard for me to hold on to a thought of what I am satisfied with in life. And the challenging week that I had, I was able to make it through because I focus on not on what was not going good in my life, but what was good in my life. And I found that to be a key ingredient for me to be resilient.
I think that's good, Drew. And you know what, and I've told you this before. I think it's been impressive with what you've done over the last 2 decades. With your shaping your personality. Cultivating the opportunity. Despite being in prison. And enabling yourself to maximize the opportunities that are there, even in that environment. But I think it goes back to exactly what you hit on. What do you think about, right? And there's lots of famous folks that if you look back at all the self-development literature, that's what they all go back to. You have a choice of what you're going to think about, and what you choose to focus on then starts becoming your reality, right? And I see it here in my family, in my boys, and my wife, and I say, hey, let's not worry about that infraction or outrage. Let's focus on the opportunity we have ahead of us. Let's learn from it, but then let's focus our time and energy on what opportunity is ahead. And it doesn't matter where you're at, but that exists in my family out here. It exists in my workplace now. I'm working in Honeywell, and there's always negative things going on. We're in program management, and we're always dealing with issues. But it's like, okay, you need to find out what is this, you have an event and it's negative. Okay, you have to ask the question, so what? Okay, what does this mean? And then you got to ask, okay, who needs to know about this event? And then what's next? How are we going to fix it? And if you focus your energy there, that's how you're going to transcend problems and obstacles in life. And that exists no matter where you're at.
No, I like that. And I was writing down keys to resilience last night in my journal. I'm looking at my journal right now and writing notes even as we're talking. But one thing I wrote is critical thinking. And I really touched on that with what you're dealing with your engineering team at Honeywell. Critical thinking is a key aspect to making it through something. Because you can begin to exaggerate your own experiences and get you to a point where you start to fail, not because of the weight of what you're going through, but because of the weight of how you're thinking about what you're going through.
Yeah.
The third thing I wrote was training. And I've been training this kid, working out with him for a little while, and I love it. He's got good heart. I could just bring him to that point of breaking and failure every time. And he's like, wow, why is this not so difficult for you? And I said, because I've been doing it 20 years longer than you. I've just had more training. And what I mean by training, not only have I done the exercise, and that's what I'm talking about, working out, exercising, training, CrossFit, cross training, weightlifting, but I've learned ways to shift the weight in whatever position I'm in to be able to make it. And I think it's the same even when we're going through social things and work environment. Learning how to think critical and then falling back to the level of your training. And if your training has been adequate enough, it'll teach you how to endure times of stress, times of whatever, to make it through. And you have to have a team around you sometimes to do that.
Yeah, I like that. And so sometimes it's not just, you said endure. Yeah, there's a piece of that, but sometimes it's to navigate, right? And navigate the nuances of the obstacle or the challenge, right? And so I think that's a good, and that's where that critical thinking, that discernment of really what's at stake or what's the problem. In the place where I'm working now, a lot of times when problems emerge or challenges emerge, part of our thinking tools that we have as part of the business is, hey, what is the root of the problem, right? Because you got to make sure, that you don't start attacking the symptoms and then you don't really get to the root. And I think the cool thing or the interesting thing that we're highlighting right here, as we talk about, individual resilience, one of the root aspects is, what are you thinking about? Right? Because if you start having outrage about all the symptomatic factors that are flying around in the environment, then you're getting distracted if you start attacking that versus going to the root. And so that I think is, if you look at building resilience and being a better person, that focusing on the true root. And one of those that is really think about what you're thinking about, which is I just think, and so take that even further, right? So you talked about having training habits and building up almost the muscle memory on how to deal with the bench press or the plank, so you can last longer, you can do more reps. Well, another piece of that is, what is your thinking habit? When you have a problem, do you really critically think and then find out what the root of it and go towards that, and then look for the opportunity to flip it? That mental habit versus getting outraged by the media, and getting distracted and whatnot. That's the difference between, navigating towards success and excellence and prosperity, is being able to think about the right things, because everybody's going to have issues and obstacles and challenges. It doesn't matter where you're at. I mean,
yeah. You brought up a good point. I really like how you use that word, navigate. Obviously, in prison, we have a prison yard. And this is where we do a lot of our exercise. We have a weight pile out there. We have a track. We have sandbags, even some medicine balls. And I'll tell you what, I'll go out there and I'll go for a run. And it's, a quarter mile around the track, so 4 laps equal a mile. And I'll throw like a sandbag on my back or a medicine ball, and I'll take off on a run. And there will always be a section of the track where the wind is coming against me. The weight of the sandbag or the medicine ball is bearing down on me. My legs are fatiguing. There's always a small section of the track that's difficult. But there's also other parts of the track where the wind is with me. And a lot of times I have to tell myself that the difficult part of this run is a very small section, because otherwise my mind will start telling me that everything is difficult. And if I run with that train of thinking, I'm going to defeat myself. And a lot of times I stop running, or I start finding an excuse not to continue. And it's the same with people on appeal, people that have been in prison 10, 20, 30 years, and they're trying to make it so they can get out and be with their family. It's just like running that track. And in every track that we run in life, there's a section where the elements are against you. And you use the other parts of the track to prepare yourself for that small session. But you have to remind yourself, I've had to remind myself, that the other 2/3 of the track is easy. That, the wind and the elements aren't against me, they're for me. And so I think that is kind of highlights what you're saying about navigating. For me to be aware of the terrain, recognize where the challenges are, but also recognize where the reprieve is.
Yeah.
And sometimes in life, all we see is the challenge. The challenging part, we don't see the reprieve.
Yep.
And then that gets in our mind. We start coming up with reasons why we can't continue.
Yep. Or we stop at, the mental analysis required to find the root of the problem and to break that out into actionable items that you can then start addressing, taking bites of the elephant, to get rid of this obstacle and to get past it, etc. Yeah, I think, so what you think about, I think, is one of those key tools. And then, whether it's physical, like, you're running around the track, or whether it's mental, or whether it's social, or whether it's workplace, right. There's an environment. You have to look at your resources also, and you have to be able to visualize it through time and space. And then you got to manage it so you're sustainable, right? And you can, work on it, and you got to chip away at it, right? Like eating the elephant one bite at a time. And so, we've talked about this before, but you're going to have a multifaceted life, but as an individual, I think there's a good tool to think about, how you should, visualize your activities and your goals. And I think it should be broken into managing your energy, managing the love in your life, relationships, and close relationships, but then also colleagues and friends, etc. And then managing your wisdom. And now that inside of wisdom, I think there's skills and there's also knowledge. And then managing your work, right? And so, a lot of times people, focus on problems and challenges, just in the workspace. But really, problems and challenges exist in all of them. But anyways, those four focus areas, if you can keep those balanced, because energy, helps you, fuel your ability to work in the other three lanes, but also so does love, because, you can't do it all by yourself. And you can't go about, being performing in work successfully if you're not wise and you haven't done skill development, So they all, I think, meet, mutually support each other. But yeah, energy, love, wisdom, and work. If you have goals in those lanes and you work on those lanes like every day, and be goal oriented over time, that helps you focus what you should think about. And then and I think over time, then you can move yourself toward to being a better person and serving a higher purpose. And I think then that builds resilience, right? Because then you got the habit formulation and whatnot. It's like a growing snowball going down the mountain. But
no, I like that. And resilience is a culmination of things. It's not just the thing. Even grit. Grit is the culmination of different metrics, different character attributes. I was just thinking about our SHEERS acronym. And the first part is skills, habits, energy. And the thing that you get from managing these areas is an attitude. Peter Drucker is really famous for saying, what gets measured gets managed. And a lot of times when we have a lack of success, a lack of organization in the aspect of our life, it's not getting managed. It's because it's not getting measured. Whether it's like dealing with like dietary habits, physical fitness, or it could be aspects in a relationship, a marriage, or even a friendship. When you measure something, you're taking an honest assessment of it and seeing how can this area grow. And it's no different than skills, habits, and energy will give you an attitude. The three of those things give you an attitude, and that's where I flatlined in the world out there when I was a teenager. I wasn't investing in my skills. I had poor habits. I was a pothead. I had bad energy, or none.
Yeah.
And I had a poor attitude. It gave me a poor attitude. I didn't see my social responsibility. I saw what I wanted others to give me in life, but I didn't see what life wanted me to give it. Sometimes you're done with life, and it wasn't until I was older and was locked up now that I realized, no, wait a minute, there's something that I want to give. But my lack of attitude gave me a lack of positive relationships, which gave me a lack of true service, which is the last S in Cheers. So, but anyways, resilience is the culmination of things. It's the culmination of preparation, thinking, training, having an attitude of gratitude, remembering the purpose. Why am I going through what I'm dealing with? Remind myself, like, what if I'm at work? Why am I working? Because family. Why am I? Because I value these people and I value my ability to be of service to. I'm not going to go into work and go, you know what? My boss disrespected me. I'm out of here. Because my purpose for being there far exceeds feeling disrespected or unappreciated. And so whatever we're going through, we remind ourselves why we're going through it. And so that brings me to a question for you. How do you make it through Ranger or Special Forces selection? Because these are being the most grueling things you can go through in military. A patriotism, saying that, hey, I want to be the best equipped soldier for the United States? Or is it family tradition? Or is it a challenge?
Yeah, that's a good question, Drew. For me, I initially when I went through high school, I was just driven to try to, be my best self in wrestling and academics. And I pushed myself really hard doing that. My parents brought me up saying that, hey, at a minimum, we want you to get a college degree and, and then you're off to the races. That was their sort of their parental guidance. So I worked as hard as I could in high school. I just had that personal inclination. And when I got to the end of my junior year, starting senior year, I'm like, hey, what college should I go to? I wasn't even thinking the military. But then when I looked at West Point in the college catalog, I'm like, you know what? That seems like it's the people that are most like me, and I want to be around those types of people, and I think it'll challenge me. And so off I went to West Point, and I'm third generation military, so I believed in that higher purpose, and so it was an alignment of values and virtues and whatnot. And and so, things continued on, and I kept that attitude of just trying to be my best self. So I really was attracted to, you know, you know, self actualization and self development, and just work hard in those lanes. And then I think that because of the challenge that was affiliated with Ranger School and being Special Forces, and not being in, beyond what the conventional Army provided me, because I started out as an engineer officer, I was attracted to that because it continued to serve the higher purpose, but then also it could take me to higher levels of excellence. And
Right.
and so that was what was attractive, and I wasn't afraid of failing. I was willing to go for it. And I'll be honest, yeah, the Ranger School and Special Forces training were huge, challenging crucibles where you got to be humble. You got to work together as a team with others to make it, and 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 you got to believe that it's worthwhile. I never questioned it, that the end, what wouldn't be worth it. And so I think it was a combination of that stuff, right? So if I go back to passion and perseverance, fortunately I was a wrestler and a cross country runner and a rock climber, so all those, physical things made it easier for me to navigate the adversity of Ranger School and Special Forces training. But that didn't mean it wasn't easy, or it was easy because, I had tendonitis in my Achilles in Ranger School. It was a winter Ranger School. So I was freezing like crazy, sharing a sleeping bag with another, young adult, trying to make it through the, winter Georgia night. Right. All right. So that,
Bang with another young adult.
yeah. So, with stinky butt, right? Because we hadn't taken the shower in multiple days, so you do what you got to do to survive, and make it through that leadership challenge. But that was the whole intent, though, for that military training is, can you persevere through that physical adversity, still have the ability to work well with others while facing that adversity, and they'd also throw you in ambiguous environments, because sometimes that's a stress in and of itself. And if you can still maintain focus and be mission oriented and make good leadership decisions in that environment, that's what they're forging, and that's what they want as the outcome. And I believe that training enabled me then to be a successful military officer, advising foreign forces and jungle islands in the southern Philippines. And so, because that's pretty ambiguous environment where you got to do the right thing when no one's watching, and it's not easy. It's challenging. It's long hours, sweaty jungle, etc. So, anyways, there's a long.
That's really good. That's really good. Eric Wrighton said, "Silly virtue that enables us through hardship better." I think that really captures.
Okay, can you say that again, Drew? You were just a little broken.
Virtue to move and become better.
All right. Well, yeah. One more time. We got
resilience.
Yep.
Is the virtue that enables us to move through hardship and become better. And then I'll pair that off with a quote by Viktor Frankl. Has a why to live for, can bear on now. I'm in 27 years, or you were in special 5 years. You have to want your quest for people that you love and have a want to. Commander, you a few look forward talking more.
Hey, I love you, Drew. It's great to see you again today.
Yeah, I love you too. Talks.